Welcome to She Trusts Herself, the podcast for women who are learning to trust themselves, honor their inner voice, and choose themselves without guilt. I'm your host, Tashleem, author, guest speaker, and certified human design reader. Together, we'll explore overcoming self-doubt, building deep self-trust, personal growth, and stepping into the next version of yourself with confidence. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about figuring out how you know if what you're doing is what you actually want to be doing. And it's a really strange, unsettling feeling when you realize you've been working towards something for months or years, and then one day, all of a sudden, you just stop and question it. And you start to ask yourself, do I actually want this, or did I just think I was supposed to? And those two questions can stop you in your tracks, because you start to think, oh my gosh, like how much of my life am I spending doing things that I don't actually want to do? And when you ask yourself that question, it can feel very overwhelming. I remember when I picked up my first ever self-help book, and it was Thrive by Ariana Huffington, and she was talking about burnout and different things. I was in a role that was very emotionally draining and exhausting, and I didn't realize that I had been living on autopilot for so long. And I thought, I actually have control over my life choices. I don't just have to go through the motions. I did ask myself, is this job what I really want? Is this what I want to spend the rest of my life doing? My heart sank, but my gut told me, no, you need to find something else. You are worn out, and this is not the role for you. From a young age, we're taught what a good life looks like, and most of the time it includes having a stable job, because job security, having the relationship, and milestones that signal you're doing well. So that could be things such as getting your first home, getting into a serious relationship, getting engaged, then married, and then all of the questions of when will you have kids, and how's the career going, and you're chasing all of these things that others think make you successful, but it's not necessarily what success looks and feels like for you. And without even realizing it, those expectations can become our goals, and we believe that to be true because they've been instilled in us, especially from such a young age. I remember we got asked in primary school, what do you want to be when you grow up? It feels like such a harmless question, but straight away there's that pressure of like having to figure out, okay, like what do you want to be? And majority of the time the answers were around a job. It wasn't, I want to be a business owner, or I want to travel the world and see things. It was a job. It's like we're asked to figure out our lives immediately, and we've got such a limited amount of information at our fingertips. We were so limited by the adults that we knew and who was around us and the language that we had, that we were trying to pick things we only had awareness of. We didn't necessarily think outside of the box because we didn't know that we could at that time. Over time, it does become harder to separate what you genuinely want from what you've been taught to want. And that's where the confusion starts. It's why high achievers often feel unfulfilled, because they're doing all of the things. They are successful, they're doing the right things, but there's a part of them that still feels unfulfilled and disconnected. And that's because achievement doesn't always equate to alignment and that internal sense of satisfaction, success, and fulfillment. Because you can be ticking all the things off a list, but it's not actually your list. And so you feel empty because, yeah, you're achieving things and your output's there, but it's not what you actually want to be doing. You can hit those milestones and still feel flat, restless, and like something's missing, and start questioning, is this it? Is this really all there is? That feeling can be really hard to explain, especially from the outside looking in. Everything looks good to other people. Even when you do start to share that feeling with others, if they haven't experienced it themselves, or they haven't thought about it, maybe they're still on autopilot, or hopefully loving their lives, they may not even know how to respond to that question. And they might just go, oh, it's fine, just shrug it off, you're having a rough day, like everything's okay, back in the box you go. Regardless of how people respond when you share that with them, pay attention to that feeling and the questions that you're asking yourself, because it's worth paying attention to. Sometimes the hardest part isn't
actually knowing what you want is actually admitting that it's different to what you're living right now. Because what if it doesn't make sense to yourself or other people? What if other people don't get it? And what if it means changing the things that feel safe and certain? Instead, you end up convincing yourself it's just easier to settle for a life that you're not really enjoying and stay where you are, because the thought of changing, having to explain it to other people and wondering if it's going to work out the way that you hope it will, it seems easier to just suck it up and stay put, to keep going down the path that you're already on, even if something inside you knows that something's not right. Everyone has different goals, thoughts and feelings, lived experiences, etc. Your desires, your goals, your dreams, they're not random. They're specifically meant for you. So they're not something to ignore, push down, suppress. It's information, and it's your guiding compass that points you towards what feels meaningful, exciting, and like you. They don't have to be logical or fully formed to be valid. You don't need to justify or over-explain it to other people. It's about being willing to listen and pay attention to it and reconnecting with what you want. Many years ago, when I was reading all of the self-help books and starting out my personal development journey, I went to a workshop that was around goal setting and writing down bucket list things. The facilitator got us to brain dump. She put on some really calming music and went, okay, just think about goals. Think about things that you want to achieve. Just write down whatever comes into your mind without thinking about it, without judging it. And the first thing that I wrote down was to be an author. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, I just knew it was something that I wanted to do. There's so many different ways that you can do this, but we can look at it as the no logic, desire, and dreams list. With this list, give yourself some time and space to write down the things that you want without judgment, without filtering them, without giving them too much thought. Write down everything that you're drawn to, curious about, things that you've ever thought that would be nice if. Write it down. No overthinking, no judgment, no critiquing yourself, no worrying about the logistics. Then ask yourself this: if no one had an opinion, if no one was watching, if no one would judge, if no one had expectations of me, what would I choose? What would I stop doing? And what would I start doing? Next, notice what gives you energy. Start paying attention to your day, all of those little nuances. Maybe it's that first sip of coffee, tea, cacao in the morning. Just notice how that feels, how you start your day, whether you reach for your phone straight away or whether you like to have a few moments of peace. Notice the things that you would normally not notice. And observe what leaves you feeling energized, engaged, like time passed really quickly, like you're in that feeling of flow. And what leaves you feeling drained. The reason for this is your energy is often a clue to what feels right for you and what isn't. But it's something that we don't normally pay much attention to because we're so busy just going through the motions and going from one thing to another and multitasking that we don't give ourselves that time to think about how we actually feel about the thing that we're focusing on. If you want to go a little bit deeper into this exercise, what are you currently chasing and why? What do you feel pulled towards right now? Where in your life are you choosing to stay safe and settle rather than expand and explore something you really want to? I just want to remind you that you don't need to have it all figured out. That's an absolute myth. You don't need to have a perfect plan because, as most of us know, life doesn't go according to your plan 100% of the time. You can have a rough idea, but it pays to be open to opportunities as they arrive, because when you're making a plan, you haven't lived it yet. You're planning for the future. There'll be variables that you haven't even considered because you don't have that experience and knowledge yet. If you're sticking to a plan that's outdated because you've got new knowledge and experience, you're just doing yourself a disservice. The key is to start being honest with yourself. So practicing self-compassion and kindness when you're going through these reflection prompts and thinking about the life that you want. It's not the life that you're living is completely wrong and you need to change it overnight. It's thinking, what am I focusing my time, energy, and money on that feels good for me versus what doesn't? And how can I slowly change this and shift it so I'm doing more of the things that I enjoy and love? Because the more that you ignore what you actually want to be doing, the further away you'll feel from your own life and disconnected from yourself. The more that you start listening to yourself, the clearer things become, I promise.
And that's a wrap on another episode. If this one resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future conversations, and share it with someone else who's learning to trust herself again. You can connect with me on Instagram, Tash, where I share more about self-trust, personal growth, and human design. If you'd like to go deeper, you can explore my books and offerings, all designed to support you as you build self-trust and step into the next version of yourself with confidence. Until next time, please remember that you're not too much or too little. You're just you. Keep choosing yourself.